Welcome to Success on Your Terms, the podcast where we challenge the conventional, break free from the noise, and redefine what success really means for you. I'm your host, Natalie Potts, and in each episode, we're diving into unfiltered perspectives on business and life because success isn't one size fits all. We'll explore how entrepreneurs are thinking differently, taking bold actions, and creating their own rules. Get ready to rethink how you approach growth, strategy, and the true meaning of success. It's time to stop following the crowd and start building your business your way. Naomi, welcome to Success on Your Terms. It's great to have you on. I'm always going to kick off for everybody is tell us about who you are, what you do, and something a little bit random or different or crazy, a little bit out there so we can get into a great conversation.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you first for having me on. I've been listening to some of your episodes recently, and they're just so value packed. I just absolutely love them. But I'm Naomi. I am a content marketing strategist, which is a fancy word of saying I help people create content that converts into sales. Right? We have to give it a fancy title, don't we? I've been doing it for oh, gosh over 20 years now, on and off in different guises. So I kind of look at the top level stuff, but I've also had a brick and mortar business. I owned a cafe, bar, and bakery. That was actually my first business. And now I've come back into the online space, which is where I actually really enjoy being as well. So, yes, something random about me. I'm generally quite a random person. So, there's lots of random things. So, I'm a cellist, but it's not my only instrument. I play piano as well. I've also can play the sax, all sorts. Yeah. So, music was my main background. I'm a beekeeper. I ride a motorbike. Yeah, I have no rules.
I love the beekeeper part. I love the celloist as well, but the beekeeper, I went to Tom once recently and I was like, when we have a place, I want bees. And he was like, don't be ridiculous. I was like, well, David Beckham does it too. But
We have the same hives as David Beckham. I'm just saying. I went down to the hive. We've got two, although one's only working at the moment. And I went down to go and see how we're doing on the honey front because this year has been a bad year for wasps. And it's a real art. Honestly, I learn something every time I'm with them. And I literally just tapped the hive to drain a jar of honey just to test it. Because if it's got too much water content in it, it will ferment, so you can't use it. So I needed to take a little bit out to test it. So it's a real art, and it's still a little bit high on the water content. So you leave it in there because the heat of the hive helps all the moisture evaporate. So then it gets down to a lower percentage. So it's absolutely fascinating. They're just amazing.
even on that, like I find in a small business world that we, like anything, you get in your little echo chambers, don't you? And life's a bit different from, I'll meet people who are in corporate now. I'm like, you've got no idea what the entrepreneur life is like, probably because I've done corporate as well for so many years. But also, like for them, for us, it's probably they're thinking, well, you don't get what corporate's like at times. But I do tend to find in those almost two pathways in life, people outside of corporate do more. They have more interest in things. They do things like we would talk about like this and like music and the bees and things like that. And I guess it's that exploration, that curiosity instinct in us, isn't it? That is very, very different in trying new things, loving to learn. As you said there, you're always learning something new. What was the why for getting into wanting to do bees and honey? What do you call it actually? What's it called?
We just call it beekeeping. I mean, it was when I had the cafe, I always wanted to do our own bees. I think it was because very much the ethos behind that cafe was we're going to make stuff from scratch because actually we didn't want to buy loads of cakes in. And
Right.
my team were brilliant. I mean, they were so good at baking, and the jobs they had before basically brought in the cakes. And I'm
Right.
like, you start like for me, creativity is such a big part of business. I'm like, you're stifling that creativity. So I gave them free reign, like you create. And I think it came from that of being able to then, because we then went on and did the bakery as well. And I think that was where I was like, I would be really cool to keep bees. And it was something we always thought about. And where we're in the center of a town. And actually, a local beekeeper used to come in quite regularly. And we ended up putting our hive with his hives because he helped us kind of steer at the very beginning when we didn't have a clue what we were doing. I mean, we had no idea, but we originally wanted to keep them on top of the building we're in the centre of town because there were a lot of bees in the town.
Mm.
Like they would be nesting in chimney stacks and things like that. But we ended up putting them on a nature reserve, which was about a mile from our house. And that's how we kind of got into it, was having those conversations, and it just kind of went from there, which is a bit like, I guess, how business sometimes rolls. Really, it's just you start having chats with people and then you kind of go, oh, I'd love to do that.
It's exactly how business rolls, because there's a few things coming to mind. Obviously, I know your journey so well, more so this year, working like, working through loads of different changes of yourself, everything. But there's a creativity part for you there in a stream. But also, like you've just said, I remember a while ago at an event you were saying how somebody connected with you and wanted to, I think, become a client just because of the relatability or the resonance with what you were sharing in content, and just this stuff that does stand us out differently. And this is what I'm always sharing with people around, like the like part of your messaging has to be your USP, which is your story, and sharing your journey and talking about what you love, your vulnerabilities, and all those things, because it's relatable for people to go, oh, like they're like me. And we like familiarity in people like ourselves. And this is where it's important to take a step back and look at your business and say, do I share these things? Like, how can I weave them in? You will know I weave in a lot of corporate, I weave in a lot of fitness and health as my messaging cause. You're similar, like we said before, with the music for you. It makes you different. And people are like I am, like if there's someone about bees, I'm like, oh, Naomi. And it just builds a relationship even more. And this is so important when we're out there as entrepreneurs creating content, like you said, and engaging with our audiences beyond the whole you have to do XYZ of they come in at top of funnel, now they do the middle of funnel, now you get the bottom of funnel. Like beyond that is what's the depth of how do you really build those relationships. And it's through things like you're doing today here, which is sharing your story, that will build that deeper connection with them, someone else doing exactly what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. And actually, I had a client said to me the other day, actually, the reason I work with you is because you have a dog. I mean,
Right.
but it was like, but I knew that I could relate to you. You would understand what it's like. And I'm like, it's those small things, and even things like where I've shared about we're just talking before we came on the podcast about my dental journeys, because I had an accident and I had to go to the dentist once, and had to have a new filling with a new dentist, which I don't have many fillings, although I've had a lot of work done. And I cried. It was a horrible experience. And the amount of people that came back off the back of that story and dropped me a message to say, like, it's a vulnerability in a way, but they don't know who to talk to because they feel ashamed that they feel like that. Or such, it's like, it's the dentist. We should be going since we were children. It should be fine. And sometimes it isn't. And actually, just being able to give that opportunity for people to connect, I think is so important. And there are hundreds of people that do content marketing out there.
Yeah.
That's not what's going to get me connections with people. And I really want to build connections. For me, connections is so much more important than what I teach. And it's been part of my career all the way through, because even when I've had teams and I've had to employ people, they could come in with absolutely no experience whatsoever. But if they got the right ethos, they will fit into the team. The
Yeah.
skills can be taught. And that makes such a big difference when you can see the development that they all want to do, because they're more dedicated, because they're happy about doing what they want to do.
An interesting point that's coming through for me is I was listening to the Cody Sanchez, Stephen Bartlett, Alex Hormozy, and Daniel Priestley, very long podcast, 2 hours and 40 minutes, I think. And one of the parts that I went back to a couple of times just to listen to over, because again, like you just think of different things and learn and learn. And Daniel was talking around meaning in life, and they were talking about the pain that entrepreneurs face in business and how you've got to have a certain appetite for risk, for pain, resilience with that as well, and how much really can you stand. And like we know, the real ingredients to success of running a business come down to not always necessarily what you do and don't know, and it's the consistency, the discipline, the commitment, the patience. Those type of things are the things that drive people forward. But he was talking around, and I've said this to some people and it's cut through the noise when I've done it once. I remember being at a in-person event and somebody said around we struggling in business and going back and getting a job, and I literally just said your purpose is not big enough in the business. And it's that direct, like, and well, no, but yeah, I'm just really struggling. No, I get it. Like your purpose isn't big enough. It's that simple. Because when you have real vision and purpose, and like Daniel was saying in the podcast, meaning, that linked with the pain, like you need a bit of that pain drive and motivation, the same as often every entrepreneur needs an element of like, shit, where's my next client? Like you need that. If it's always going to be given to you or there, you're never going to probably excel past it or push through the hard times. And I think that this is key, is what you're sharing here, is that content has to have meaning. It has to be of meaning to you and genuine, and it has to be a connection piece with content that has meaning to that person you're speaking to. Hence why we say things like niching is so important, and speaking to your ideal client is so important. And I don't sometimes think people do that, the depth of that work enough, of what are the symptoms of where somebody's at, like you said, like having mouth ulcers and things like that. And it's not the speaking to the, do you have mouth ulcers and trying to run a business. It's, do you know, like, are you stressed and you're in a repeated mode of this every few months and this cycle, or the feast and famine? Or do you feel like you're worried as a business owner that, what if I get ill again like I did there, but actually the buck sits with me? That's what you really speak to, is the stuff where people are going, yes, 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 oh, that's me. That's the level of what we have to get into. I think, interesting, we haven't mentioned it yet here, but the AI side is, does that have the ability, as great as we know it is? I've been doing some research behind AI and actually how it's taken away any creativity for entrepreneurs, and it's essentially dulling their minds and not getting them into a place where they need to be. Does that, it can be something we use and it works with us but not for us. And I think that absolutely everything we've shared up to now at this point of bringing up AI is, none of that is possible if we use AI. Like, you know, we can plug in a beekeeper and all this stuff, or what I like, fitness and everything, but it's never going to do the connection in the same way of you speaking your own story.
Yeah, and it's true. And I'm a big fan of AI, and I use it for my content, but it's never the final draft. It's there to give a steer. And actually, it's those personal connections and, like you say, the drive that you have, the vision that you have. I think it was the biggest thing I learned and have done throughout my entire career when it comes to content marketing, because some of the stuff that I would be doing, I'd have to really understand different audiences. And actually, I learned this from playing the cello. I know it sounds a bit of a kind of crazy thing, but in the classical world, and I play in orchestras, so I'm an orchestral player. I play in 3 orchestras, but generally speaking, there is always this thing of how we're going to get more bums on seats. That is usually the thing, because most orchestras are in some form charity run. So you have a certain percentage of seats you need to fill before you can break even. And it's
Right.
not about the profit, but obviously they spend half their time worrying about the budgets and everything like that. But actually, a lot of the work I did was around audience development and understanding that you think, well, actually, I know people would love this concert. They would get so much from it. And when people understand what it is, they will go into it, but they don't understand what it is in the first place. In fact, probably the opposite. They don't feel like they belong there. The thought of walking into a dark auditorium with people who might appear standoffish, or that's the assumption that they make. They wouldn't know where to clap, they wouldn't know where to stand, they wouldn't know where to sit, they wouldn't know if they could move around or do anything like that. These are all barriers that stop people from going to something like that, because they don't have the knowledge or the confidence to understand how to go through the door. And that experience really taught me to think about, well, when you're working with audiences and understanding who you're talking to, it's exactly the same whatever you do. There are barriers as to people wanting to come through those doors. And I know how amazing classical music is, but most people see it as long and boring. That is the general assumption that people see. But when you're in a room and you feel that power of an orchestra, it is absolutely immense. I mean, some of the concerts are just incredible. And I think when you start to understand that and you start to see the behaviors change and understand what the triggers are for people of the real reasons they don't do stuff, then you can start to create the content that really speaks directly to them, that they understand what they need. And like, I had a coffee shop. I opened a coffee shop, a cafe, bar and bakery in a town where there was, well, they didn't have a bakery particularly. That was definitely a first for them, particularly one doing sourdough and that sort of thing. But the cafe and bar, there were loads of cafes and bars. And I did coffee. Loads of people do coffee. It was still my best seller by far. But people didn't come for the coffee. They came because of the story. They came because of the name, the connection. They came because of the atmosphere, the vibe, the experience they got. And you could watch, and I found this fascinating. I find people fascinating. You really understand when you're in a building with people. And like in my business, I could see people's behaviors, I could watch them, I could see their emotions, I could see all of these things. And we don't translate that onto online sometimes. We forget that actually people need to see those emotional connections, see that reality. And I still hear people say there are people in the group that go, where's your, we really miss your cafe. And that's 2.5 years ago. They haven't been able to find a replacement for it. That's how much they still care. So it's a really interesting thing. It was building that story, building that brand, saying it over and over and over again, that actually we forget. We feel like we have to change the story every 5 minutes. You don't. That is the biggest myth in the world. But actually, all of these things that you talk about, you can say so many times.
Mm.
People don't get bored of it. In fact, when they know it, they
Mm.
love you more and they feel like they know you more and they feel like they've got an advantage over other people because they can connect with you. So it's a real, that is where I've really learned stuff from actually being in the world of classical, of
Yeah.
how to really connect with audiences. And there's nothing like playing in an orchestra and being in the room with an audience and watching their reactions to understand how to connect with them when you can't use words.
It's got to be one of that example is one of the it's a high emotional state, isn't it, where people are in that, like music absolutely changes lives and moves people. My mum said the other day, like it has that capacity to, it could take be a moment in your life as well and just add so much to it. You think of when you, if you were to watch a trailer, I did media studies years ago, but if you were to watch a trailer or like a horror movie, right, but no horror movie music, it's just not a horror movie. It's the power of that, and it's almost like working out in this, I guess, with your content and what you're sharing is what's your music in that. How do you weave that in, that, like, again, the emotional state with that, the highs and the lows, for people to really connect and stay engaged and stay, like you're saying, with you. Because it's like when we look at famous people, right? I mentioned Beckham, Stephen Bartlett, people like that. People, I remember going to meet, I've met Stephen a couple of times, but some people meet him like he's there. But, and to be fair, he does hug, and I know he's doing all of the, how he's, he's not he's very aware of what he's doing, behavior and body language as well with people. But people act sometimes when I meet famous people like it's their best friend, because of, again, have been following and following and following, and there's so much relatability, and they feel that that person's just like them. And that's, it's how do you, I guess it's the depths of sales psychology with content as well, isn't it? Like the part of, and I'm always rubbish at saying it, but like law representativity, where it's a, you give before and someone's more inclined to give back as well. That's why we do freebies and time with people and things. But also just spending that time and really understanding, just building that relationship. So often when I say, like, business is about relationships, and slow things down to ask yourself right now, like in this podcast, like what we're sharing here is, we're not talking about like sales. I'm not even talking about like how many DMs you in today, how many people you're speaking to this week. I'm talking about, do you really understand your client? Do you really know where they're at, as what they really wake up thinking, where they're at in their business, the stresses they're under, or the highs, the lows of everything? Do you think around, as you said, the experience that they have, like what things they care about and really value in life, and standing for those? I put out a few things the last few months, and I'm very aware of when I do it, about Manjaro and the weight loss jabs, right? Probably not a conversation for now, but it cuts through. People like it or they don't. It's very opinion based. And somebody put out something about Alex Hormozy's launch this week, about it was his book, and the sales perspective and this and that. And then I throw something in that's different, and then she comes back defensive. And I'm like, look, but it gets people emotionally in high states, whether they agree or don't. And there's always a cutting thing I say sometimes when I run my in-person days, is with messaging in particular. I remember I spoke to Stephen Bartlett about it. So how do I really cut through the noise? And when people are doing what I do, like you've said, you're a strategist, I'm a strategist, I'm a coach, mentor, all the same things in essence. How do you stand out? And he said, you've got to piss people off. If you're enjoying this episode and want to simplify your business while making it work for you on your terms, my mastermind could be exactly what you need. It's designed to help you refine your messaging, streamline your strategy, and accelerate growth, all while aligning with your vision. If you're ready to stop overcomplicating things and build a business that truly works for you, DM the word podcast across social platforms to learn more. Now, let's jump back into today's episode. Now, and I think we've had this conversation, like some people hate that and some people like it and some people in between or indifferent. Take all of that, the drama side out, and just see the real, data in that. What he's in essence saying is we have to be different and we have to stand for things. And I think to stand for things, we have to be able to talk about our story, and we have to talk about what we care about and stick by that and really believe in it. Like you're saying, you value experience of people, you value getting to know people, sharing things about your life versus people who don't. That's, if you can do that in your business and build on that consistently and patience and get, like you said, known for saying the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over, so you're top of mind, that's when the business starts to grow. You have to trust that process, which I think people really struggle with. But if you can be really clear on how are you different, what do you stand for, what are your values, that's the stuff that makes your content more engaging.
Yeah, totally. And I always use the example of, like, if I was describing you to my other half, like if I was saying, oh, I've been talking to Nat, she's a business coach, but she's also really into fitness and she does all of these things. And she's really all about the no BS and all of this sort of stuff. That's what we're describing. We're not describing you and the abilities you have as a business coach. We're
Right.
describing the bits that we connect to
Yeah.
about you. And that's what people, I think, are unsure of how much they should share or not
Yeah.
confident in. They feel that they should only talk about the business side of it. But it's so, as an entrepreneur, it's not just business. It runs so much deeper than that. And actually, the content we create, like I often talk to people about, I put loads of stuff on LinkedIn that it has absolutely nothing to do with business, but has a business purpose. Like I was using the example that my husband had a Chinese takeaway and he had went off piste, ordered a kung po chicken, and it came with croutons and green olives. I mean, it was weird. I thought it was weird, but they do. I live in the north now. I'm not au fait with all the traditions. So I put it as a poll on LinkedIn and it got so much engagement. But actually, the reason being I put that there deliberately because it stopped that monogamous scroll of all of the other stuff that are to do with, are you struggling with this in your business? And actually, it was like, green olives, would I have that with a kung po chicken? I think 2 people said yes. Each their own. I love an olive, he doesn't. It was not the best Chinese. He wasn't going to go off piste ever again now. That will teach him for not sticking to his routine. But again, that conversation got people chatting and got people going and started more conversations that then have later gone on to talking about business.
Well, look, I mean, and that's where the numbers game comes in, right? It's like, if when I worked in corporate, the more I had stronger relationships with people I spoke to more. It's that, like you do, don't you? If
Yeah.
I've got loads of you amazing clients, there's different relationships are different, and it's not always personal things, but often I find it's going to be easier with people who have similar interests to me. That's natural, isn't it? And it's that identification in your business, the identity piece as well you hold of, who am I? What am I doing? How am I conveying myself? How do I want to connect? And I think for content, people want, it's so important to think of, how does my content connect? How is it building trust and positioning me as the person that could be a solution to their problem? Beyond just, like you're saying, a result of something. It's in so many ways. But if I was to have more conversations with, like just build the relationship of conversations with people over a period of time, and that's the part, is people just want it now. It's like they take time. Growth relationships and opportunities. I put on a post yesterday about the sales you get today aren't just yesterday's work as such. It's the last 6 days, 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years. It's that compound effect of over and over and over and over. It's not visibility for a certain amount of days or in between launches. It's visibility continuously in positioning your message for your content out there and being the same and standing for the same things. And, like you said, I'm no BS. It's like, just make a decision. What do you want to be known for? How do you stand for things? And neither is right nor wrong. People will align more. Sometimes people come to me and I don't think they're ready to take. I've been called sometimes the person that people will come to after they've done other people, and then they're like, I just need the result now, which is, that's life. It's fine, because there's none of us have it perfect or worked out. We've got to go on our own journeys, and sometimes, they're just not ready yet. And I see that in my life and stuff. It's like, I'm just not ready for that yet. That's okay. I'm fine with that. I'm here, not there. And it's the yet that's the powerful. But I think for the content, it's really, how do you build that trust? How do you share the other things? How do you really, and do that consistently, visibility wise? What would you add to that as your learnings in like really getting to the depths of that connection piece of people?
I think the one thing that I have learned is my content makes me approachable. Like, I know a lot of my clients wouldn't necessarily directly reach out, but they won't be offended by me sliding in the DMs or sending them a message. They would actually, and I don't often go in with a hard sell, because that would put them off totally. It's not what they like. It wouldn't work for them. And I know that about my ideal clients. I can do the hard sell when I know them. Like, I can go in and go, I think this is going to be really great for you. And they will give me an honest answer back of where they are, because they can trust me that I'm not going to sell them like something that isn't going to be right for them right now. Like you say, we have to really understand what's right for our clients in the moment. So I think when you do that, people then will believe in you. And like you always said, we don't like to be sold to, but we like to buy. So it's really understanding that behavior of people and knowing that actually sometimes it isn't about the just yet, but it's about the later on. And like, I've had people, like, I've just done a launch recently, and there were people that were like, I really want to do it, it's just not yet. I'm like, great, fine, we'll pick it back up later, or you can work with me in a different way if you want to, or you can come into my membership, which is a lower cost, if that's something you need right now. But if it's not yet, great, I don't mind that. That's fine with me.
And that's why, like, I had the podcast. Like, a big thing is sometimes when people aren't ready and I've had the conversation, it's like, okay, I think the best thing is like, have a listen to my podcast, let me know what you think, and let's just keep the conversation open. Again, like, I think some people like a this or that all the time, to directness of, we'll do it or don't. And it's like, just build the relationship, meet them where they're at. Like, what do you need help with? Like, let me help you with very well, because you probably, there's people that sometimes I'll get DMs with and they're not right for the mastermind. Yeah. And it's like, what do you need right now? What do you think you need? And I'll say, okay, I would do this. Go and have a look at XYZ first, but come back to me if you've got a problem. I'll help you. And just, again, like you said, just send more voice notes. Be that person that just values, really helps person without the intention. Like I said, the law of reciprocity. Like, give first, just help them where they're at. And do that on a numbers scale as well. Just help more people. Just one thing that most people could do today that they're not doing is stop the bloody list. I bet if you look down and see it, you probably got something like website, do this, do that, all the other stuff. I want you to just like literally cross through it and just put, go and speak to 10 people. Go back to 10 people that you need to. Go to your power base of friends and family and say, oh, I've just, do you even know what I do? Because Tom and I was joking, he just doesn't ever know how to share to people what, it's just a joke now. But, my dad said it, like, I don't know how to say about what you do. And I was like, oh, I kind of get over that family and I don't, but there's some truth in that. Like, go and have those conversations with those people who may know people who need what you do. Yeah. But we don't do that. We do the stuff that feels safe and secure. But that stuff that's always going to drive the money and the revenue tasks is always the key driver to move you forward. And then the content helps to support that, right? It's that backup as such, but you have to get out there first. And often what I say is, we're the bottleneck in businesses when we're struggling. It's a constraint that we have that we haven't identified enough to what it is to change it. And that has to be the key.
Yeah. And actually, even those conversations, and it's, I happily have small talk conversations with people in person. That doesn't faze me. It used to. I mean, I'm not going to lie. When I first opened the cafe bar, I probably hid in the kitchen for about a month because I was so terrified of it.
Much more confident in just the year I've been working with you, though, I think, as well. Maybe it's a journey, but you are definitely more confident, more conviction in what you do.
Yeah. And I think that comes from like just getting out of that comfort zone of just like, you just got to do it. You just do it, just do the consistency, show up, do the things. You don't have to start big and go in with, do you want to buy my services? That's most people don't start with that. It's literally just a door opener, as I call it, a conversation starter. I often say, have a scroll of someone's Instagram, and if they've got a dog, I say, oh, your dog is so cute, and we can have a conversation about dogs. And I've had these conversations with people where they've ended up not necessarily being my client, but they recommend me to other people because they have built that connection. So it becomes like this really lovely circle of conversations you have without kind of having to feel like you're going to offend people or going to annoy them. If they're
Yeah.
not relevant, people ignore you. I mean, it really is that simple. You're not offending anyone by doing it. But actually, in the content, when you're kind of backing up everything with that content and staying that consistent visible, some of my best performing posts have been stuff like, I've told people not to buy my course, because that actually shows I'm not going to force you to buy something you're not ready for. And people then see that integrity. And when I
Yeah.
have those conversations with people, like you said, if they're not ready, they're not ready. And you have to learn how to read people and understand what they're trying to get from you. And sometimes you just have to go, I don't want you to do this. And they trust me because I'm going to give them the honest answer.
You bang on. Like I talk a lot of, like I do a lot in DMs. I talk a lot about it because it works. And like people will say, oh, DM think like they do. Um, I have a lot in there around like my job, and I say with clients, like, it is not your job to make somebody ready. That's not your job. Your job in conversations is to find out, like, if somebody, where they're at, what they want to achieve, what's the struggle, would they like some help? Like often I was like, would you be against learning more about how I could help you? Yes or no? Oh, yes, of course, Natalie, tell me more about it. Doesn't mean it's like a quick, oh, they're a sale, but there are easier ways to approach things like that in those conversations. As you say, like build trust, but you're just identifying. I think we get so caught up in this salesy, like the mindset that the UK is awful for it, but we're so worried about being salesy and stuff. And it's just, I don't know I can sell to you. I'm just not even identifying that. I'm just wondering, what's your bloody problem? That's
Yeah.
okay. Where do you think the solution is? Like, why are you there? Why are you stuck? Would you like some help with that? It's
Yeah.
that simple, but we make it very, and again, like this is the way you hear the cliches, which cliches for a reason, but we make business really complicated. It's simple, but that doesn't make it easy. It's very hard. Of course, it's hard because it's a volume game, it's a numbers game, it's hard, it's competitive. You're learning a lot about yourself. I think that's one of the biggest experiences is knowing with content. Some of the feedback I used to have in corporate was, as a leader, I wasn't very vulnerable and I was very like, results, go, 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 which is great. There became a part on having to do some more learning about vulnerability. So I'm again, like you said, you learn certain things from music, you bring into business. And I've taken a lot of those skills. This is why I often over say to people when they say I'm behind or I'm here or whatever, it's like, and all your journeys, I know, I hope I'm not speaking out of turn here, but like you said, like where you pivoted and things and that changed, like it, some people would say, well, now I'm behind, I'm at square one. Well, you're not. It's impossible. You're a different person to the person you were yesterday, to the person you were 6 months ago, 10 years ago. That is all learnings and experience. And that has got you to where you are now. And don't make that too invalid, because this will determine now your next steps, which often is that bit people say you're just there. You're just by the gold when you're digging, and that visual, keep just going. And it's that, like I said, consistency, patience, that people just lack that real drive for, because they lack the belief or they lack the ability to hold pain, like we said at the start of going, and that real meaning of what's the life I want. And we live in a bubble of online with content where it's very glamorous, and I'm seeing that massively this year doing a wedding. Like, cracky, like you look at the figures versus the what you see on Instagram, you're two different conversations about what you really want at a wedding. And it's that we're in that echo chamber of, oh, we want this and want that, but you're not seeing the in between of what that's taken and the content it's done and the messing it up of vulnerabilities. I don't, as much as I say piss people off, I don't want to upset people with what I think on some things about Manjaro or this or that, but I do want to come from a place of integrity to me, and I do want to connect with people that also see similar in that their values are, no, you go and work hard for things and you do your health and you do this, and the same with business. So it's I guess what I'm bringing to there is, you can't make people ready to buy for things, but you have to just, as we're saying there, still build those relationships. And you can do that through content, is get things across, build that trust. And then that's when your skills of sales and stuff come in to help you grow. And so if anybody's like it's stuck in business, you go and look at your content. Is it clear, like you said, who you're speaking to, what you do? Is it going to get somebody to take the next step and see you as a person of authority, say, actually, they could really help me? And if it's not, I look at some content and I think it's boring. So I'm
Yeah.
like, what do you want me to do from that? What's the action you want me to take? What do you want me to think, feel, do? And those are good questions. Like, what do you want somebody to think, feel, do? Like you said, say about you. I don't mind if people say certain things about what she's this, she's that, but actually she's got a great heart, or she's got great, that often comes through is, and that's very no bullshit, but it's because she wants you to get great results, and she sees the other stuff, or she's got a heart of gold, or the compassion's there and empathy's there, and that's key for me, is those skills, qualities. And that's what people like, why people like you doing what you do is so important, because you've got to be able to connect with people in business, and you can't be just putting out content that's there because someone else did it and you're modeling it in a certain way, or copying it and hoping it goes viral, and then actually you don't really want the virality because they're just people that are just scrolling endlessly.
Yeah. And it's an interesting one, because I've been in the world of social media, particularly since before pages even existed on Facebook. I've been doing it for a very long time. I've seen the grow of social media. I was doing it back in the MySpace stages. That was I know, it was cool. I loved MySpace. But
Was
I
that
was
with MSN and stuff? And
yeah. What was
dial
it?
up. Wait, can I just dial up? Who's on it?
Yeah, Friends, was it Friends Reunite, something like that? But at that point, when Facebook was starting to really come in and businesses were going, oh, this could work for us, it started to change marketing from broadcast to conversational. It really shifted how marketers had to think and do. It also gave them this huge free platform to work on, because everything I've worked on, people don't think they ever need a marketing budget. It's not true. And it's often the first thing to go if you're having cutbacks. It's the worst thing to do, because marketing.
That. We'll come on to it in a second. For it.
But yeah, and it was such a learning curve. But so many people in business, and I talk about this quite a lot, and when I do like masterclasses around storytelling and that sort of thing, I always use this as a really powerful stat, that 95% of purchasing decisions are made subconsciously based on emotion. And then we back it up with logic. And people forget the emotional side of business. Everything is emotional based. You think of that emotional roller coaster you go in any one day, but yet we make our content devoid of emotion. But that doesn't connect. People feel, they need to feel that experience. And that's what I've learned a lot from being performing, being in a room, having people in the cafe. You can feel that atmosphere, you can feel the power of something. And we then somehow get this computer screen in front of us and forget that people feel at the end of it. There is some content where people just go, I get that. That is totally me. And Jenna Kutcher is brilliant for that. She is really good at talking about like situations she gets, like, this is the kind of thing, I go and buy 3 dresses and then go and return them so I can get the store credit. It's like, I totally get that. That is the kind of thing I do, but it's rememberable. People remember that. And it's so fascinating. It's so interesting to watch. But for some reason, we feel that we can't be emotional in business because it's just business. It's not true. Everything we do is emotional, and we just don't feel comfortable being vulnerable like that.
I think the skill becomes managing emotion, isn't it? That's the skill thing, is how do you manage emotions, and what you care about is different to somebody else. And again, I think I often say data over drama a lot of the time, because it's true, but you're right. Like, we are emotional beings, and you're bang on with the sales about, I think like 80-90% is emotion, the rest is logic and stuff. And that's where, when you're on calls with people, sales calls, like we do, you do say to people, like, you want to understand, like, well, how does that feel? Like, where you at? Because that's the stuff. And it's not tricking people. It's great sales to ask, it's service, because I know in those challenging conversations I've had with people before, where, like, you're stuck. It's like, yeah. And it's like, how does that feel? It's like, it's really hard because I'm doing all this and I'm not here and I want this and it's that. And they're, like, you build the trust with it. That's the bit and the gaps. And then there's been people that I remember a conversation with a mentor a few years ago. Well, he's always been a bit of a mentor in his social content. And then I went to a mastermind day. I was invited as a guest through a client, actually. And again, this is connections, right? I had a great client he runs gym portfolios, And then I kind of angled him to a more direct mentor in his industry and said, like, we'd worked together for, I think, 12 months. I said, I think you need to go and work with this person now because they're more, I think you need more the niche stuff and the growth beyond the team work we've done. And then, so he went with work with them and it was like, actually, you'd probably be a good client for him. So I went to this amazing mastermind day, but we had a long, half-hour chat around did I want to invest or not, and it was 20 grand for a day. Like, this isn't messing around, it's a big investment. And the gap, I came away, I actually felt, and I shared it with people, but I felt I wasn't ready yet, in essence, but I felt that it was like he was too far ahead of where I was and all those things, and it made me feel there was a bit of ego coming up, there was a bit of am I not good enough, all that jazz. It's nothing about him, it's me. And it's I've still not been ready just yet. I don't want that help yet again. So, but again, we've built the relationship, we keep a conversation. I say to him, like, yes and no and stuff, but maybe in the future there will be something, maybe there won't. But you do have to, I think, go into, there's a lot of emotion there that I thought I'm not right to take that investment right now with that. And I think I trust myself and just know that because I'm not a huge risk averse person. I take big risks to a degree, but I also get myself into a safe place where I don't. I have to, like we've spoken before about playing big, and I have to challenge myself on that. And that's why, and I know you very much invest in yourself development wise, but we have to be in environments around the right people. It's so important. I think this is so underrated for business owners still, is like, who's helping you? Like, no one. It's like, why do you expect to get anywhere quick with no investment? It's just baffling.
Yeah.
But to the point around your point of marketing, I think, again, something I say is, they do the fancy stuff. Oh, I'll do this big website. Oh, I'm going to do another branding shoot. Oh, I'm going to do PR. I get PR. I get branding. I get it. But probably not if you're starting out as well, or not for most businesses at the minute, unless you've been very fortunate and you've got a lot of financial cash flow. You can do that. I absolutely, yes, fine, do it. And everybody's in different places. But not to have a marketing budget or any understanding of what that could look like, even if you're not there yet, is not wise, I don't think. For example, I was just talking with the masterminders this morning, and we're talking about it tonight, but it's been a few people call about offers and how do I make the most profit out of my offers. And then I said, like, let's just strip it back. We need to go back and look at your time delivery, what you want to do, how much you want to earn, and then we can work out pricing from offers then. All those variables will come into it. But somebody was saying around, oh, I wanted to just offer, but it looks really cheap for like a one day with me. And I was like, right, strip out what everybody else is going to worry about, or it looks a certain way. That will be a part that we need to discuss and make sure we position it price point the right way. Why don't you see it differently? And I used the example of a client last year who joined a mastermind. It was just over Black Friday, and she'd made not great sales the last 2 or 3 years. And I knew the mentor she'd been with and things. I said, like, the reality is, there's no judgment. You should be making more money now. So I said, what you need to do with this, my advice is go all in on one offer. Stop all this freaking loads of offer stuff when we're starting, because it's not clear. Go all in on the VIP day. Let's make it a no-brainer price point for people that are your audience right now, so you bring money in, because that feeling of you making a sale and bringing money in will naturally change momentum in the game anyway. And it's easier to manage you emotionally. And we're going to be in a better place, right? Because your energy changes, and energy state's a big thing. The same as you said, managing your emotion. So I said, just go all in and sell as many as you can on that. And she paid for the mastermind. If it was 2,500, she paid for it. She did like a couple of sales, and I was like, you've made the mastermind money back. Like, all in that Black Friday, because she was clear on an offer, one thing. She spoke about it all the time, confident, conviction, managing the emotion, really clear about what she was delivering with people. But I'd said to her, you just have to see it a little bit, because she was like, but I want to earn a few more grand from the day. I said, why don't you have to start to see even that as a bit of a marketing budget of where you're at, because you said you're going to have a marketing budget, but just see that in a bit of a way that do it at a lower price tier for the offer, get great marketing and use it. So when you're going on these VIP days, wake up in the morning and talk about it. I've got a VIP day today. We're doing XYZ. Take people on a journey, document it. Do a little B-roll of you on the VIP day. Talk about, if you want to know more about my VIP day, DM me the word VIP. Make a big marketing thing around that, and see that part of you didn't earn maybe £1,000 like you wanted to earn, like maybe two, but you did it for £1,000. See that as a bit of a marketing budget, and start there, and then start to think around, how do I build in marketing budgets? Because in the future you're going to have to do things like ads. Like loads of platforms are seeing right now, Instagram, they're becoming pay to play. why do you think there's one way you verify it? Like in the future, they will not work the same as they do organically now. It's just not going to be that way. And we've got to get our heads around that. And therefore, as you're saying, like you've got to be honest with yourself about, oh, someone says don't do a marketing budget. Someone says this. Honestly, ask yourself, how are you marketing yourself then? And that's going to require budget. In essence, like I'm saying, almost it's a bit of a time more investment than money. I hope that's making sense, but it's
Yeah, totally. I know.
a marketing budget as a focus.
Yeah. And so many people focus on the social and they get so annoyed that they're not getting traction on it or they're not getting cut through it. I'm like, you're lucky we've got a free platform to play in, right? It's free.
Yeah.
You know, if I opened my cafe with no investment, it wouldn't exist. Like there would be no, like I needed cash flow long before I actually opened the doors. I think actually it was on my birthday, and I've just had my birthday. It was on my birthday 7 years ago that I first walked into that building, and I opened it on the 4th of December. I mean, I didn't start renting it until October. It was a bit of a project, but we needed investment. I had staff before we opened the doors. Yet somehow in the online world, we assume we can do everything for free or we can do it at low cost. But the result of that is you will take longer to grow. You have to do much more grunt work. Like you say, you don't need a fancy website. I built my own website, but then I used to work in digital. But I did my own logo on Canva. I haven't spent thousands of pounds on my branding because I know I'll probably change it in a year's time when I feel like I'm in that right place. I'm like, the most important thing is to think about where that income is coming from. But also the one thing you touched on there, which I often have the conversation with people, is look at every opportunity to market your business, like whether you're doing a day. Like if you've got a product-based business, put your social logos inside so people can share when they unpackage. Look at what is the next step people can take and how can they make you more visible on your behalf, because that will help your business grow. If you don't have the budget, look at what you can do to get other people shouting about you.
Yeah.
And we forget it so often. And it was something, particularly because I've worked in charity sector, I've worked in corporate, you learn a lot about how to market in the charity sector because you have no budgets, basically. You have very small, very limited budgets, and you have to get big results from them. So any conversation used to involve digital in some way because it was often seen as the one which was basically human resource to an extent, maybe some ads, but mostly human resource. So anything we did, whether it was going and doing a stunt in like London or something like that, involved someone going with a camera to film it so they could use it for social media content or to use it in an email or to use it in so many different purposes. And we forget all of those opportunities to really shout about ourselves, or just, I always say, well, what's the next step you want people to take once they've got your service or product? What do you want people to do next? How can they shout about you? What can they do to help you grow? And we don't do that enough. We're so afraid of asking people, even for testimonials or anything like that. It feels like really unnatural, right? But actually most people are really willing. And the great thing about a testimonial is if they did a video, you're shouting about them. You're promoting their business.
Pretty much interview clients now. Like literally jump on a Zoom call like this, and I'll ask them certain questions, and of course it's prescribed and set and stuff, and they know that because we've built a relationship, and they're coming on with results. It's not as though it's like, no, we've not gone and we've had the worst relationship. Like these, let's not kid ourselves. We all know that testimonial. So it's who is going to do a testimonial of joining Natalie's mastermind was the worst thing I did, right? It's not going to happen, right? People might want to hear that, but it's not going to happen. So you're right, like and again, it builds through and cuts through us. It says to people like, please just do more video, because that content of marketing yourself is so much more relatable. It's why I did the podcast. When it because I've rebranded this again, like you talk with branding, like you just do it over and over. I've done it 4 or 5 times, but to get to success and wanting to talk about that. But I started it in COVID because I was in corporate wanting to leave, and then that hit, and I was like, timing wise, I made the decision I didn't want to leave in that. It's like, well, I could have, but I didn't want to. So I was like, what can I do to feel this again, the purpose, meaning, and vision of I will one day have a business, even though I feel miles away from it. I was like, I'm going to start the podcast. And my coach had been banging on and on and on for 9 months. And I don't procrastinate a lot, but I did on this. And I just, one day I was like, I'm going to do a podcast. I was like, I'm just going to jump on Zoom and start a podcast. And I did. And I started with a few people. Like I've been doing a run of guests through this summer period. And I did that to get me consistent. And then I just did it every single week, committed to it. But I've done over 300 episodes now, right? It's a compound effect, and it's content is king. It's always there for people to listen to. My main great podcasts are ones from years and years ago that have had the main listeners and things. But again, it's that consistency. It shows to people, oh, she's been around for a long time, or a bit longer than that. It's you mastering your craft. They're not all perfect, but I'm getting out there and doing it and learning. You leverage audiences. Why do you think I have people on? Like we know what we're doing. You have your audience, I have my audience, we share. And it's all about, again, it's marketing yourself in different ways. But if you can get out from this, like maybe one thing is get out more in video for people, talk, like get in front of the camera talking, do reels, do stories, look at your analytics on Instagram, which ones. And I said to masterminds of those, like, all throw in your analytics so I can see them. And some of the people had really great engagement for stories. Some people were more reels and some people were more posts. Now that'll be based on what they do, majority of. But the reality was there is like, why aren't you doing more fucking stories then? Like if they work well, why am I not seeing you on there consistently every single day? Like do it. Or if the reels are working well, why do I then have to say, have you posted this week? Like do it more often, do more of what works. And that will start to give you the gold dust to get consistent structure, strategy, and all of the stuff. But you're right, like you've got to think about what's the next step, what are you doing, how are you marketing yourself all the time. So much in that.
Yeah. And I think actually, I know I talk about being creative, but I am a numbers nut. Like, give me Google Analytics, get me in Search Console
You
on
like
Google.
to
I will
target.
be happy. I love it. But I also watch I call it, I love the journeys. I love seeing people's behaviors. I watch people's behaviors online. I have done, like, because I've worked in digital and done the websites, I've actually watched people use websites before. Like, it was like a readability testing thing where you literally sit behind a screen and watch people go through, and it was basically a stress test on rebranding and see if they understand who you were. It was fascinating to watch other people use websites. But when you understand their behaviors online and how they work through stuff and where they drop off and what they do, and do they scroll through the whole page, and the biggest one everyone forgets is they're probably looking in mobile. If they can't see it on mobile, they're gone. They're gone. There's no point in doing it. But what is so interesting about watching all those journeys is you understand people's buying behaviors, and that's what you really need to know. But people don't look at metrics enough. Numbers don't lie. They give you data, and you have to combine that with the creativity to know what's going to work for you and to know where people are going, what they're viewing, where you can see all of them working through all of this stuff. I once listened, this is years ago, I'd gone to this conference, which was a digital conference. We were talking a lot about blockchain and Bitcoin because that was just coming out at the time. So this is how a while ago it was. It was very technical. But there was someone who had been working at the CAB, Citizens Advice Bureau, and they were talking about their website experience because they used to have a website that had hundreds of pages of data on it, basically. But actually, they were saying people come to us like in situations like they've got a bailiff knocking at their door, wanting to get in, and they don't know whether they should let them in or not. And all they want is that quick second of advice: should I let this bailiff in? Yes or no? Because they don't want to let them in unnecessarily. So what they did is they understood exactly what behaviors and emotional states people were in. But really interestingly, they could see from the data that at 3 o'clock on a Friday afternoon, people be looking up lawsuits around employees, employment, how to leave their jobs, bullying, that kind of thing. 3 a.m. in the morning, it was divorce. So they put that content front on their homepage because they understood the data behind it, so that people that were in those emotional states could see exactly what they needed at the time. And it made it easy for them to get information. And we forget that. We make it hard for people to buy from us, but we don't have the same length of time people, we talk about building those relationships, but once people have made that decision, they want to buy quickly. They don't want faff. They don't want to have to then figure out how to actually work with you sometimes. And we forget that. And that's all, again, all part of the thing. But we need the metrics. We need to understand those numbers. And so many people don't look at them.
Yeah.
Like you say, well, I'm not getting visible. Well, how many people have seen your website? How many people are looking at socials? I don't know. Right. Well, let's get information and then we can go from there.
Yeah. So important. What's been a real lesson in business for you the last 18 months?
I think the biggest lesson is knowing when to make the changes. I think I have so gone against my gut so many times, and it's, you know, when something's not right, and I'm loyal to probably a default sometimes or a fault, whereas I will keep going until, you know, I'll keep going with the business if I think it can work, it can work, it can work. But if I don't trust that, I'm thinking actually I'm not sure it will,
Mm.
and being able to kind of go, because originally my niche was very much around the baking side of it. I thought that was all I was qualified for because I'd done a baking business, but I disregarded the other 15 years of experience before that, where I spent most of it in marketing. And actually, it wasn't my skills in baking. I could bake, I could bake like home bake. I could not. I didn't even know about gluten free. I couldn't bake sourdough when I opened the bakery. It took 3 months to learn how to bake sourdough because I did not like it, honestly. But I wouldn't open the bakery until I could make it. And it took 3 months. And we talk about consistency every single day. And literally, it would come out flat the pancake. It was just like I had monitored forms. It was such hard work to get that right. The difference was 25 ml of water. That was it.
Can
That
only
was a
empathize because I
change.
worked in retail and I had a bakery manager with his team, and I would be on the other side of the bakery, be like, "Why is it not out yet? Hurry up!" And but the 5 a.m. was the artisan person as well, so like it's crazy. But again, like it's relatable. Like I know what you're talking about. It's
Yeah.
these are skills you have to learn, and it's like working out, like you said, like not negating those other years of skills that you've got in marketing.
Yeah. And I remember having the conversation where I was like, I was full in on like focusing on baking businesses. But there was, in a way, it felt selfish because I could sit, having been through that really challenging time of going through COVID with a hospitality business. It was, I mean, you talk about business being hard. I don't often talk about the reality of how hard that was. It was really tough. It was really, you know, most months I was trying to figure out how to keep people in jobs. It was just a really horrible, and it was on me. And that was really, it took a lot out of me to do that. And also it was, my business was more than me. A lot of people in the community found it like as a play. It became so much more. So I felt a lot of responsibility for that. And when I came out and just kind of focused on the baking businesses, and actually, as much as I really wanted to help them, and I still can help them, but I also wanted to make money because I spent basically 5 years literally just trying to keep businesses going. And actually, it's like I didn't really get into business just to not live the life I wanted to. I like having the freedom, and it didn't turn out like that. It was a really hard pill to swallow. I love working. I work in digital. Like there is no off button in digital. It's 24/7. You know, I'd have calls with in corporate at 10:30 at night with directors sorting out blogs that were going out at 5 a.m. the next day. That was kind of like the nature of it. But actually, the things that I really learned was being able to make the changes and having to put my boundaries back in
Mm.
because I can't feel them anymore. There's like, because I've had to put in so many hours of work, physically put in so many hours, I don't know when I'm going past the limit of what I can cope with anymore. There is no warning signs because I can push myself so far. Like when I had the bakery and it was going, look, we're coming to the end of having to close it. I'll be doing 80-hour weeks, 30 plus steps a day. You know, I'd start at 5 a.m., finish gone midnight. That was normal. That was a normal week. Often 7 days a week. Most years I'd get 10 days holiday, including weekends. So it was like, so, but at the time we were in a challenging time. The world was in a challenging place.
Yeah.
So having done that, now like the thought of taking a weekend off, it's like a holiday. You know what I mean? And I love working on a weekend. I love my job. That
Yeah.
is the thing. I love doing what I do, but I know it's not sustainable to do it all the time. And it actually, having to kind of be really quite strict with myself when I want to work
Yeah.
is hard. I'm fighting my natural instinct.
I used to work 60, 70 hours plus easy in corporate every week. Just was. And people like when you go home, it's like when a job's done, next one. Like that was just, it was the conformed I guess way of life. It was what I was in and the way of corporate and that. And then it came to a point, do I want that? And that's a whole other episode. But I think in the business, it's, you know, I love business. I do. I enjoy what I do. But then I think the difference years ago, a couple of August is back, I had a really great month. Last year was just shocking. And I was like, that's it. And I hated every single day in August last year. It just really unsettled my routine, everything. And I was like, right, I need to adapt and approach it differently this year. It's on me. And I was like, well, I'm just going to do different stuff. And we've had a bit of time off. And then like we've had like Tom, my fiance, had a bit more time off of holiday and stuff. And I've been like, I've worked the morning, then we've had the afternoon together. And then like weekend till he's back to work. It's like, well, I'll go back to work at the weekend. And I like that freedom, fluidity. That's what I like. But also a bit of, I was talking about this with someone through my mastermind, was saying like, I remember Christmas in corporate, there used to be weeks before, and I'd say, right, get your time off now, or go and do the family stuff now, because you're going to be all in. You're going to, some days might be 12-hour days, whether you like it or not. Like that's what we've signed up to, and that's what we're agreeing to here and now of what we'll do. So go and do it now. And it's a bit of that. I said there's things that are seasonal, and this month for me is a bit of a, I'm going to adapt. I want a bit of time off. I want to wake up in the morning, maybe read my book for 2 hours, not 1 hour, or I might want to go to the gym for a bit longer, or I might want to not go to the gym at all and have a completely different routine. And I've just been doing different things, and it's nice to have that. And that's the part without a pressure of money, 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 money coming in. So it's being able to work out and create, like I say, success on your terms, but create a business that runs for you, and not apologizing. If you want to work in the evening, you want to work in the afternoon, or like whatever lifestyle you want. I know some people work all hours in the evening and night, and then they get up at like 11, 12. Who's to say what's right and wrong, or success is for the 5 a.m. club? For some people it is, and for some people it's not. Like you've got to find your own way with it. And like I think you're a great lead for showing people that that takes a bit of time. But also I like the point about, like you say, and I'm a big believer in really listening to your gut on things and leaning in, trusting yourself. You can have great mentors and people. I think there's a skill to go, what does that mean to me? What parts do I take that I like? What parts don't I like? And that always used to be the same with me and leaders in corporate, is they'd lead in certain ways. I'd be like, I love that, I'll do that. And others like, that's not how we do stuff. That's not what I want to be known for, how I'll do things with people. And you just take in essence what you want to do for you. And I think that's the core, and that's sometimes harder for some people than others, isn't it? And
Yeah.
you have to trust yourself a lot with that.
Yeah. And I think because I used to lead teams, and leading a hospitality team was very different from leading a digital team.
Oh,
But I had quite a lot of different personalities in some of my teams. And I'm not someone who will be really autocratic. That's not my leadership style at all. Actually, I'm more collaborative, because I know that I don't have all the answers. I kind of go like, I used to lead teams of web developers and agencies in web development. I know a bit about coding, but I'm not going to be able to code an entire website which has got 80,000 pages on it. I just don't. It's just beyond my knowledge. But they have the skills. I just need to lead them in the right direction to give them the vision. And that's fine. And in a way, we've got to be that way in business. And we often, if we're on our own, particularly if we don't manage a team, we don't think like with the SEO mindset. And I didn't do that when I first opened my cafe bar. I was too involved, and I was causing more of a problem. And actually, it's something I've learned now, having not, this is probably the first time I don't manage anyone in years, but having to actually still think like a CEO about people actually below you is sometimes really difficult. And you have to think, actually, am I being a CEO here, or am I just like, what do I need to really focus on that's going to get me the things that I want to do, and what's my future look like? And it's thinking more like that. Sometimes we forget that. But leadership, understanding leadership styles, what you want to do, how you want to be in business. I really hated the 9 to 5. I never worked 9 to 5. That was not for me. I worked longer than 9 to 5 because I wanted to do a good job. But actually, when you work in the world of music and theatre, like the show goes on, you get the job done. It doesn't matter if something
yeah.
is going wrong on stage. Like I've had conductors lose their trousers just before they've gone on stage. I really wish this wasn't true stories and stuff. I have worked in festivals where I have seen things go very wrong at last minute.
Yeah.
They still make it happen. Still, people get on stage and perform no matter what. And yet we have this sometimes attitude of when it gets hard or things go wrong, we
Yeah.
feel like we're failing and doing stuff that we can't
Shut
actually.
up.
But yeah, like in the world of theatre, you've got people sitting out there. You don't stop. It's like you see everything goes wrong behind the scenes. I've literally I used to work backstage a little bit as well, particularly when I had to do, like, there was a big show in, they needed a dresser. So I would be helping people to literally undress and redress behind the scenes really quickly. You don't have much time. And there was a show called Angelina Ballerina, which was a mouse who was a ballerina. It was a children's show.
Yeah.
And while on stage. And Angelina had gone and done this scene. It was a ballet. She'd laid down, and then that particular part of the stage went into darkness while they finished off the other scene. She ran up and went, "My eye has fallen out," because she was wearing this mouse hat. And you're like, you got an auditorium of 1,000 kids, and Angelina's eye has fallen out. And she literally just held her hand to her eye and danced off the rest of the set without it falling out, and they quickly glued it back in. But that was just normal. It was the stuff that happens. It was like, fine, we'll just sort it out, we'll solve the problem. Yeah, we get in our way. We just think we can't make those changes. It's too
a bit like when people used to come up and say like, "Oh, this is a problem," and I was like, "Cool, what's the solution?" Like I'm not the solution
yeah.
for you guys all the time. Bring me
No,
the solution or bring me options and let's talk about those together. But don't
there is
just
always a
the
choice.
problem with me, because after a while I'm going to get a bit frustrated. Let's
Yeah.
get through. But it's all like we said before, it's mindset, isn't it? What's your definition of success like on your terms?
For me, it's like the choice. You get to choose, right? It's there is like we're just talking about there. The reason I named my business after my first business after my grandmother Elsie May is because she had such an incredible outlook on life. Like she helped the elderly until she was 87. The only reason she stopped because she lost her sight. I mean, she was older than most of them, but she loved helping. And she never really saw the negativity in the world. Instead of like going, "Oh, I've lost my sight," and she loved baking. She got scales that talked to her. They were called Jeeves. I mean, she made it work for her. She found that solution. And that was always the ethos that she had. It's like, there wasn't a problem. There's always a choice. There's always a solution. You can choose to stop baking, or you can find a way around it to carry on. And I think that for me is success, is being able to have the freedom to choose how you work, the way you work, how much you want to earn. We always think, and we're kind of drilled into us in a corporate environment, and we need a job, and this is the only the ever money you're ever going to earn. I'm like, well, that's not true. You can't decide my worth in terms of finances. You can't decide my success. The only person that gets to choose that is me. I get to choose how successful I am. I get to choose what my success looks like. And yet we are so ingrained in such certain ways and so many things that we need to be doing and tick boxes that we should be doing. That doesn't work for me. Like if I want to learn how to ride a motorbike, I'll go and do it. I'm not going to be restricted by that. But there are limiting beliefs. And that, partly why I ended up running the marathon, London Marathon. And at the time I could run about 5K. I mean, I thought 5K, London Marathon, easy, right? I'll have a plan. I'll have a plan to get me. It was so unbelievably hard. I had not really thought about it. But it made me realize that the only person stopping me from moving forward is me. So being able to kind of go, right, okay, what choice do we have? What are the options here? There is always a solution. There is always an answer. And that for me is success, is when you realize actually you're the only one in control. You can choose how that looks. And I'm not dictated by someone else telling me how I should be working or what I should be doing. That for me is like that makes me happy. And that's exactly what I think we aim for with success. I've so many times rated my success on how much is in my bank balance. And I've worked in like the charity sector, I've worked in the arts. They're not big paying jobs. My first full-time job, I think, paid 11 grand. That was like then it wasn't even a reasonable salary. It was still low then, but I did it because for me, working behind the scenes in the theatre was the success. I never expected to make lots of money. Whereas now things have changed. I'm like, well, actually, I really want to do some of the more luxurious life. I've given a lot of my life to charity. I've done a lot of these things. So I get to choose how much I earn. So for me, it's that having that ability to choose.
I think choice is a definite more of an entrepreneur mindset as well around things like I think I look back to a lot of the corporate things and lots of things were out my choice, and that's not true. I think lots of us have more choice. There are things that people say, well, you don't have a choice. Well, there are, I think, some things, if we're not as black and white on it, that it's very hard for people, but in essence there is so much more choice for us to make on so many things than we allow ourselves. And I think that part of the obstacle, like you just said, you put in your own way, is you get yourself cocooned into a belief that you don't have a choice. And all of us do. I have a choice whether I invest in a property of a mortgage or my business. Like I could sell my place. Like that's a choice. People say you can't do that because we can live. Well, then I'd have to find something like that. There are so many more choices to things. than we allow ourselves to believe. And we'll make certain stories from beliefs or experiences to support that. But I think you're right there. It's just a reminder of that part that you have a choice to make right now of where things go and what you do and things. Or people say, I can't invest, I don't have the money. Well, you can go and get a loan or go and do this. Or like you say, you could never start a business bricks and mortar without money. And it's so there are choices. If you don't want to do them, that's different. That's very, very different. But you do have a choice on so many things. So I think the way you put that and positioned it is bang on in that way, just to get people to think around what choices you have right now. And also you are a sum of your choices that you've made in the past. Your life is a result of that. So own it.
Yeah. 100.
Where can people connect and find out about all the amazing work you do with content marketing?
You can find me I'm on most of the socials, but I am Naomi C Rose is where I am on Instagram and LinkedIn. Naomi Claire Rose with an I on Facebook, or you can just come to my website, naomicrose.co. Yeah, just .co, no .co.uk. We haven't got long to type out the haven't got that long to type up the UK, so it's yes, naomicrose.co, and you can find out. You can come and get, like, if you're really finding it hard to know what to connect with, like, I can do like a 15-minute free audit with you, just have a quick look at what's going on and give you a couple of pointers. I'm always happy to chat to people.
I think people think we put too many defense barriers up, and like, people want to help people and just reach out, build relationships. That's the key part, which I hope people have taken from this one. So thank you so much for your time.
Oh, I've loved being on it. Thank you for having me.
If this episode gave you something to think about, helped you in any way, or just made you feel seen, do me a favour, hit subscribe, leave a quick review, and maybe share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to dive deeper or need help, reach out. I'd love to hear from you. I appreciate you being here, and I will see you next time.